Hi there. This video is going to show you how to add animated text to this collage. Right, so we're going to use the timeline to do that, and we're going to use a function called tweening. We're going to add the text into a new layer. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new layer by coming over here to the bottom right. See where it says create new layer on the bottom right? I'm going to click that and create a new layer. And there it is, it's called layer 8. Now, I can't really see very much of the timeline at the moment because it's really closed in like that. So I'm going to use this slider down here to slide it out just a little bit. And now I can see some details in the timeline. I can see the timeline runs for 5 seconds. And I can see that's 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds, and 5 seconds. Now, I could make it longer if I wanted just by dragging them out. But I'm not going to do that at this stage, because I just want to leave everything as it is for the purposes of this demo. Right, now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to expose the attributes inside the timeline. So at the moment I've got position, opacity and style, which means I can actually modify position, opacity and style through time on this layer. Every one of these layers has got their own things. But what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go and I'm going to add some text to this, background image. So I'm going to look for the text. Here it is. Here's text on the side. I've selected text. So I've got Helvetica New. It's regular and it's 72 point sharp. Now I could choose a different font if I wanted. I could choose Black Oak Standard. Okay, and I could make it 48. Or, I can override this and make it 100. That's okay too. Right, so let's do that actually. So we're going to use Black Oak Standard and 100. And I'm going to type the word, the text that's going to be used. So I'm just going to here put the word fish in the middle of this background. So if I now go and look at my attributes of fish, I'm going to see that I have a new attribute called text warp. So that's very handy because that's what I'm going to be using to modify the text. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on that little watch there and you'll see that's created a little star at the very beginning of the animation. That means it's going to remember that fish looks exactly like this at the very beginning. Now I'm also going to actually do a transformation. This is called a keyframe. It's actually called a keyframe. And it's called a keyframe because it is the point in time where you remember what everything looks like. Okay, so it's here I've got, it all looks like this at the beginning of time. So I'm going to move time forward to 1 second. And I'm now going to put another transformation point keyframe in and a text warp keyframe in. Now for the text, I'm going to warp it by clicking on this T up here. See up there the T? And this gives me the text warp options. So I can do different things here. If I can do bulge, for instance. So if I want to do a bulge, you can see the fish goes out like that. Why don't we do that? We'll have a bulge. And then if I come along here in time to 2 seconds, put in another text warp. And this time, instead of bold, I'm going to, well, what I could do is actually I could reverse the bulge. No, I could do the bend to be -50. You see how the fish has changed there in the window? So then I click OK. So now if I move the time back, you can see how the fish starts off at the very beginning, and as we go through time, the computer calculates all the movement that has to occur between the beginning and the first key frame, and it does what's called tweening. It calculates each point in between to get us from our first image to our last image. And again, it's doing the same thing again to our next tween. So I'm going to go along now to 3 seconds, and I'm going to put in another keyframe, and I'm going to choose now a new text warp. So maybe I'm going to do fisheye. Okay, and I'm going to try to make it a bit more extreme. Oh, go. Something like that, why not? Okay, click OK, and then I can move forward here to 4 seconds and put in another keyframe, and then put in another text warp option. We'll say flag, and then click OK, and then we go right here to the very end, and I'm going to put in a last keyframe, and in fact what I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove the text warp altogether. I'm going to say none. So now if I want to play what I've just created, I just click on the play button, and you'll see as the time travels through, it is actually hitting those keyframes and making those changes to the fish, which seems to have moved as well. That's okay. Now we can move the fish as well. We have this transform keyframe set up as well, and that means it will remember where things are. So the fish started off here at the very beginning, and as we move through time, you can see the fish sort of drifting a bit. What we can do, we'll drift it on purpose. So we'll go to here, and I'll say edit, free transform, and I'm going to move, oops, not the center of the fish, I'm going to move the fish over to here, and click this tick to save it. So now, if we replay what we've done, you can see the fish should now start moving over there as well. Now the fish is moving back, of course, because we haven't changed this keyframe. So if I now come to this keyframe and say free transform, okay, that's what it looks like. So now I'm going to actually turn the fish inside out. Look at that. And I'll just drag it over here as well, so it's not too moving around. And then I'll go to the end of the video, and I'm going to again do a free transform. I'm going to swap the fish back and pretty much put him back. That thing that I accidentally dragged is actually the middle of the fish, and you can use that for rotating the fish. If you go up here on the corners, you've got the ability to rotate the fish, and it rotates around the center. So if I move the center over here somewhere, it rotates the fish around that center instead. What I'm going to do, I'm going to leave this fish just here, sitting more or less in the middle. Click OK. So now, when I replay the whole thing, you'll see that the fish is going to start moving around. It's going to get twisted inside out. It's going to do all of these weird things, and then it's going to end up coming back and being fish in the middle again. So there we go. You can also play with opacity, and you can also play with styles. So opacity is over here, and styles are here. Oh, missed it. Styles. So here's styles. So for instance,